Hello, welcome to Fit Kids Conversations. I'm here with Dr. Adel Korkor of Korkor Foundation. He's an MD based in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, and has started a cause and series of runs called 55050. I would like to welcome Dr. Korkor as we discuss all things youth fitness and mental health in this conversation. Dr. Korkor, can you begin by telling us about the genesis of your foundation and what led you to establish it?
Well, first, thank you for the invite and appreciate being on your podcast. It began all about probably 2015, 2016, when I was trying to decide how to move forward in my own clinical practice. And when I decided to step down from my clinical practice in 2017, I had already made a decision to really establish a foundation, was focused on mental health. And the primary reason why that is really multifaceted. Number one, as someone who practiced medicine between academic and private practice for 37 years, I always noted how challenging mental health issues for many of my patients. Keep in mind, I practice kidney disease, nephrology, dialysis, and transplantation. And those patients really suffer from a lot of challenges with chronic illnesses. And mental health issues was always a big issue. And it was always something that they had challenges in, number one, finding the care that they need. Number two, when they find it, they can afford it. And if they find it and can't afford it, is it the right treatment? Is it the right option for them? So that's number one. And number two, I myself suffer from mental health issues. And when I was in my late 30s, I suffered from a severe panic attack, which was suspected as being a heart attack. And I had a lot of interventions at the time, realizing that this is really a panic disorder. And when I realized that that was the case, and when I was seen by a psychiatrist, a couple of them, they recommended medications for me, and none of which really worked, or actually I was able to live with their complications. Being someone who was in full practice, I couldn't take alprazolam, for example, and Zoloft caused a lot of side effects for me at the time. And this was one in the early days when it was just being approved. And I've always been active. I've always been someone who exercised on a regular basis. And what I decided to do is that, because of the fact that my panic attack was centered around my heart, I decided that, well, the only way you can really stress it is by working out, by exercising more regularly. So I started pushing further my training. I started doing more, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, full marathons. And really what I found is that exercise and running has helped my mental health a great deal, and helped me cope with the challenges associated with the anxiety. Whenever I feel like, oh, must be having a heart attack, I'm short of breath or whatever, well, I'm running, and it can't be my heart. I'm already doing a stress test every time I go out for a run, and I haven't died yet. So I think it was very helpful for me to really have that positive enforcement that I'm okay, and this is just an attack and it's going to go away. And it took me a long, long time. And I still, even now, after almost 40 years of this, I'm still challenged by it. But now I know how to control it, and I know what it is, and I understand it. And I go out for a run or a walk and get a fresh air, and I'm okay. So I decided to establish the foundation with the focus on mental health for these two primary reasons, in addition to the fact that, I know a lot of people who suffered from it, a lot of people who have kids who suffered from it. I know families who have suffered from suicide. So, there's a multifaceted issues that really led me to make that decision. And I decided to endow the foundations with the desire to carry on with this for as long as I'm alive, and even after my death. You brought up an interesting topic, which is the 550-50. And what really is this a run walk series that we have of 5K in all 50 states in 50 days. And that's why we call it the 50-50.
And we at Fit Kids are so happy to partner with you on this venture, and would love for you to speak a little bit about what you saw in Fit Kids that made us a proper partner.
That's really a very good question, and I think it starts a very important conversations that I have always had with people around me in terms of when is the best time to intervene to address mental health issues. And clearly, the majority of mental illnesses starts at a very early age. And as you know, and as we all know now, not only based on experiences, but based on science, that the muscle and the brain talk to each other. And physical activity and brain activity are interconnected. So I always believe that motions equal emotions. Driven by the science associated with the role of physical activity in mental health, and knowing that mental illnesses become early in life, it clearly demonstrates the importance of intervening early in the kid's life. And what is a better thing to do than to get the kids active at an early age, get them engaged in regular physical activity and physical exercise, and not only enrich their body, but enrich their brains, and provide them with the ability to have the resilience that they need and they could have on board to face the mental health challenges that, for certainly, as youngsters and as they grow up, they're going to be facing, just like we all did. So we found that really Fit Kids fit our philosophy that earlier is better, and physical activity matter when it comes to mental health and emotional well-being. So there's really no better fit for what we want to do and what we want to accomplish moving forward, other than an organization like yours, like Fit Kids, who believes in those same values.
I'm curious if you have any particular stories that you could share with us as far as children you've seen particularly benefit from engagement in this type of activity, or that you've come to know through your foundation.
The observations that I have had through interaction and communication with teachers, school teachers, and parents is that their kids really behave better, they listen better, they have more ability to concentrate and focus if they actually are physically active. The kids that are not physically active, they tend to be scattered and often not be able to focus in classes. I think the reality is that most parents and most school teachers know that their kids are going to act better if they, what they say, work it out. You know, I remember the days when my mother would say, go out and play and then come back. And I think nowadays we've lost that.
I'm curious if you know of any sort of psychological study or medical study that talks about how different types of exercise impact the brain, especially.
You know, that's a very good question. And I know quite a few people, including my son, who tells me that there's nothing like punching, you know, a beanbag, or that really helps him, you know, to just really relieve themselves from their stress or anxiety and the tension. Whether or not particular exercise seem to have a particular benefit when it comes to mental health, I think that's an issue that remains to be undecided. However, cardiovascular activities seems to be really important, especially as we get older, in respect to our cognitive function. So there has been quite a few studies that have looked at the importance of cardiovascular activity, you know, bringing a heart rate to a certain level, exercising at 75% of capacity, you know, 180 minutes a week, seem to be very important and very helpful when it comes to cognitive function. Now, weight training activities, muscle resistant activities seem to be important when it comes to memory. So definitely there are differences in terms of how muscle and cardiovascular activities really impact our mental well-being, especially when it comes to parietal lobe size or the connectivity into the brain, or the amygdala, or size. I think there's definite difference, but we don't really have quite a bit of science to support which one or the other. I think what we really need to know and need to understand, that exercise to the brain is like Miracle-Gro to your garden. It really enhances the size of your brain cells and enhances its interconnectivity. So that neurons talk to each other and they are bigger. And what else do you want to have in your brain?
You said before, motion equals emotion, and now you're talking about exercise being as Miracle-Gro to your brain. You should write a book if you haven't already.
I think I should. I have been approached by many of my colleagues and friends, and they said, Adel, you've got to write something about this. I've been speaking around the country. I've lectured in many different venues. I think I should do something about it. The reality is, we as a society, if you take a look at the number of people that sign up for fitness centers and fitness club, and the number of people that actually use them on a regular basis, it's incredibly small. I think we're still a lazy nation. We're a lot probably more active than we were at one point. If it depends what benchmark point that you want to be using, but we still have a problem in physical activity. And I think the biggest problem that we're seeing, which is really a direct function of lack of physical activity, is obesity, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and now depression, anxiety, and all the other things that goes with it. So I think, we look at the pandemic and what it did in terms of killing people and causing so much disruption in our well-being and our life, but we also have a pandemic of inactivity. And it's contributing to mental illness, it's contributing to cardiovascular disease, it's contributing to obesity. It's one baggage deal that in my opinion, have caused as much destruction as the pandemic. And we were able to get a vaccine for the pandemic, but we don't have a vaccine for laziness, for lack of willingness and motivation to do this. And I'm not trying to seem critical or angry or anything about this. I just think that we have to play by the fact and the rule that we as a society have trended away from being active in the outside world and do the things that we did for all the years, to really being on the desk and working from home and not doing the physical activity that really is important to enrich our brain.
If somebody is depressed or anxious or has other mental illness, and even if they intellectually know that they should be exercising, that exercise may help make them feel better, may still not have the motivation to do it because of the mental illness itself, right? The mental illness keeps them from starting. And I'm wondering if you have avenues to get around that, again, studies or your own experience.
There are many, many studies. I recently reviewed the literature. There's over 1,200 studies that looked at the effect of physical activity on mental health, mental illnesses in particular. And there's about at least 400 studies that looked at depression, anxiety, and all that stuff. And the data actually on physical activity in depression actually favors physical activity by about 3 percentage points. So, if you give drugs and exercise, the people that do exercise actually fare better than those. And when you combine drug and exercise, you end up reducing the drugs, and you end up having a much more sustained, antidepressant effect of the drugs. So you can augment the drug effects by physical exercise. I know quite a few depressed individuals who came to me during the 5-50-50 and said, Dr. Korkor, you talk a lot about this, but it's hard for me. I can't do it. I can't get out of my house. And I think the answer to this is what I call snack bites. you can't jump from being inactive and having no energy to do anything to really be able to run 5K or exercise for 30, 40 minutes. Take it one little bit at a time. Snack bite. Go to, make a short distance. When you go to the grocery store, if you go there, park a little distance away from it and walk a little bit longer. Don't use the elevator if you live on the second floor. Wake up the stair. Make it really a little bit at a time and allow your body to move and start feeling the impact that has on your emotional feeling and in terms of how you feel. So don't say that I'm just going to go from here to there. Just take it a little bit of step at a time. Just take a little bit at a time. And if you can't do it by yourself, invite someone to do it with you. Contact a friend or say, you know what, do you mind coming with me? I don't feel good today. I just don't feel like I'm going to do anything. But if the two of us will do it together, maybe I can overcome that. So invite other people to participate and help you make that first move. Because once you make that first move and allow more to follow, you will feel the difference. And once you feel that difference, you don't want to go back. And I can tell you that with the 550-50, we produced a documentary film called You're Not Alone, the story of the 550-50. And I would invite the listeners to this podcast to watch the movie, because they can actually see how many of those patients who came to this event said, you know what, I've been waiting for this. I have never done a 5K ever in my life. And here I am, I'm doing it for myself. And I feel so much better after having done it and being surrounded by people who are doing it for the same cause.
When we talk about fit kids, we're talking about youth exercising next to each other, helping each other along. Some of the more physically able or skilled, helping the less physically able or skilled. We've seen this in practice in the field at our classes. Can you talk a bit about what is some of the social emotional benefit of the proximity of another fellow exerciser like we were just talking about?
I strongly believe that physical activity in kids that involve participation with other kids at different level of skills allows them to have a better understanding of how relationships can be built and how, someone could be good at something and not good at something else. But, I can fit in this one, or you can fit in that one. And now we have a team effort and teamwork. So it really builds that sense of connections with each other and the feeling that they're empowering each other to be a better team.
Why are you, Dr. Korkor, doing what you do with 550-50 and your foundation?
I believe in the cause. Any one of us at any time in our life suffer from mental health issues. And probably I would say 50% of the population, the estimate is like 50 to 70 million Americans have a diagnosed mental health issues. I think that number is too small in my opinion. But anyway, we have in the same way that we were dealing with the pandemic, we have a virus that's keep mutating and keep creating more problems for us, and more people get infected by it. Unless we can find an answer through a vaccine, we're not going to be able to control it. And I think the same thing applies to mental health. We need to build the resilience that we need to address those challenges with mental health issues that we all going to be facing sooner or later. We're all going to be encountering losses. We're all going to be encountering death. We're all going to be encountering loss of jobs or whatever. We have to have the resilience that we need to build a stronger being, stronger person. And physical exercise, physical activity is important to build that resilience. So moving is important. So because of my belief in that, because of what I think is so important for us to do as a society, I believe that this message that we're trying to deliver through the foundation and through the 550-50 is so important.
We've got just a couple minutes left, and I would like to just give you the opportunity to spread any further message, encouragement for those in our audience, whether it's the kids themselves who may be watching, parents, coaches, teachers, anybody. What's the bottom line on this conversation for them?
Well, the bottom line is that physical activity matters. Whether you choose to walk, run, hike, swim, cycle, physical activity matters. It matters when it comes to your physical being, but it also matters even more when it comes to your mental being. To be able to build the resilience that you need as an individual, child, adult, youth, to face the challenges that you are going to be facing. We're all going to be faced with difficulties and challenges, whether it's a loss of job or whether it's failing in a class, or we're all going to face those. To have that resilience and have that strength to deal with it, physical exercise really help us build the resilience that we need to face the challenges of life.
Thank you so much for your insight and advice here. And thank you again for partnering with Fit Kids. And we look forward to great work with you over the summer, and really appreciate the time you've put in here.
You're very welcome. Thank you.